instead of one of your competitors? And I'll be giving you the exact answer to it very shortly, but bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to share this into my group, and then we're going to get right into this. Okay, just hit the share button here, and I will be right with you. Sharing a group. Magic Source. By the way, if you're not in my Magic Source group, I put a lot of extra content in there that you don't see on my newsfeed. We can talk about stuff in more detail. So if you're not in there, go and find it. Magic Source for Online Marketing. So let's get right into this. What do you do when a prospect says, "Well, why should I pick you instead of one of your competitors?" I mean, it happens to me all the time as a business coach. As you may be aware, I'm not the only business coach on the planet. So why should someone pick me? And I will tell you the answer I give in a bit. Because I know exactly what to say when this comes up, and you should too for your specific business. So the first thing to be aware of is, when are they asking? At what point in the sales conversation are they asking this question? So if you're like me and you're posting on Facebook or Instagram or wherever, you're posting and people appear in your inbox from time to time and they're like, "Hey, can you tell me more about your program?" Or, "I liked what you said about sales calls the other day. Can you help me with my sales calls?" If they then say, "Tell me about your program. Why should I sign up with you rather than someone else?" The only appropriate answer at that stage is, "Well, I don't know if the program is right for you at this stage. I don't know if it's the best choice because I don't know anything about you at this stage. I don't know about your business. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know where you're at right now. So if it's okay with you, let me ask you a few questions and I can find out." And then you'll find out and you go and ask them the right questions. "Well, tell me about your business right now. Tell me where you're at. Okay, where would you like to get to?" Once you know those things, then you can make your pitch and you can then obviously make the case for joining your program. But if, like most cases, people are asking you this question after you've had the conversation, you've found out all about them, you know they're going to be an ideal client, and you've made your pitch and you said, "Okay, here's what my program is all about." And then they go, "Well, so why should I choose you instead of this person?" Well, this is when you need a pretty solid argument about, well, this is why you should choose me. And you should really have this stuff nailed before you come to a sales call. This should not be a shock to you. You should know your competitors. So in my case, current price of my program, and it is going up, current price of my program is $6.5K US. So it's not cheap, but it's not by no means the most expensive. There's big courses out there at 9K, but you could get one-on-one coaching with someone for like 3 months for 2K. So why would you pay 3 times as much for me? Or why wouldn't you pay extra to get the higher one? Well, you could get one of the lower level people, and yeah, they may help you one-on-one, but there's a reason they're that cheap. And the reason they are that cheap is quite simple. They ain't as good. They don't get results. And I'll say, look, have you ever heard the phrase, it's if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait until you hire an amateur. So what that means is you'll hire out the cheap person. You'll end up going down all kinds of roads where it doesn't work. You waste your time, you waste advertising dollars, and you just end up spending more money and time and you get frustrated. Then you come to me to fix the mess they made. And you still have to pay my prices, and you've paid them in advance already. And if you go to the bigger people, the ones who are signing up loads of people at higher prices, well, the only goal of those companies is to sell more product, to sell more courses. And you get on those courses and all they do is they dump you in a Facebook group. You get maybe a once-a-week Q&A call if you're lucky, where there's 50 other people on, and you get to ask your question. You get like a 1-minute slot. As opposed to a proper coach who really understands where you're at, who watches what you're doing, who follows you every single day, and then says, "Okay, change this, change that," and is literally really invested in what you're doing and knows exactly what you should be doing. So you always know if you're applying their advice right. And that's where I'm at. That's how I make the case for me. So what you get with me is the expert level of help and the expert level of stuff you need to know in order to implement my program. But you get the personal one-to-one support and the actual iterative coaching that you don't get in the other programs. And then here's a key point. I then throw in a case study. So then I'll say, if I'm talking to someone who I know has done a bunch of programs before, I'll say, so just like my client Dahlia, she'd done a bunch of programs before. She'd done, well, I won't name them, but she spent 30, 40 grand on various programs. She'd had the odd sales. She created a program, but she wasn't making consistent sales. And the reason was she thought a copy was good, but it needed a lot of work. And now she realizes how much further she had to go. But despite going through all those other programs, no one showed her exactly what needed to change. And her sales calls themselves needed to improve a lot. And we've done a number of mock sales calls with Dahlia where we fix those specific things. We said, okay, you said that here. This is why I've had to put the person off. Say this instead, to that level of detail. Again, nobody else is saying that to her. And plus, her offer was targeted to the wrong people in the beginning. So that once we fixed those three things, she made a 5K sale straight away. She made an 8K sale of someone who got on the phone with her a year ago and wasn't interested, but now is. And then another 5K sale last week. And now she's consistently selling, which is what I would anticipate you will do if you join this program, provided you apply yourself. Now, is that the sort of thing you're looking for? Can you see how making that argument where I do the following? I say, okay, here's what you get if you go to all the other places. Here's what you get if you go to me. Here's the results of someone who, very similar to you, who went through my program, and here's where they're at now. Making that argument is what I found to be the most efficient way of answering that question. Essentially, what you're doing is you don't want to answer the question in a kind of like pathetic beggar sort of way, where the prospect's on a pedestal up here, like they're going, okay, impress me now. Tell me why I should pick you. And you're like, okay, please, please, like begging at their feet. Please, please pick me. Please, I'll try really hard. I'll try really hard. Please pick me. Please, 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 please. I need this, please. And then they're like, okay, well, let me think about this. I'll come back to you. And then you never hear from them ever again. Instead, what you say is, instead of like saying, well, okay, come across like some sort of beggar man or beggar woman, you lay out what their options are. Okay, well, I'm not going to say to you, okay, you should pick me or whatever. I'm not going to beg you to choose me, but I'm going to lay out your options on the table right now, and you can pick what you want. And then you just set it out. Okay, you could go down this path, this path, this path. Option one, you could do nothing. Well, you've not hired a coach for the last few months. You've been trying to figure it out yourself, and you've not made any money. So that's not really an option, is it? Number two, you could go with a cheap option, but they're just going to fuck it up and you'll end up coming to me anyway. Number three, you could go with a more expensive option, one of these big programs that, yeah, they have loads of testimonials, but the reason they have loads of testimonials is they get 100 people through a month and 5 of those people give a testimonial. So over the course of a year, they get 60 great testimonials. But what you don't get to hear from is the 95 people who failed because they don't get the support. Or you could go with me and you can actually get the results for once. Just like my client XYZ, who's just like you, who went through the program, they did all the other stuff beforehand like you did and failed, and now they're getting the results. How does that sound? And if you actually do that, if you can actually come up with those reasons of going, okay, here's your different options. You could pick this option, that option, that option, or you could pick me. And you can make it sound like those other options are terrible and you're a really good option. And you can then give proof at the end of someone who went for that option, i.e. you, and got the success. You'll be signing people up without any issue. So any questions, just let me check. Yeah, stick them in the comments and I will answer them later. Otherwise, hope that was useful and I will see you again soon.